Well, hello, boys and girls. It's the Oneness Project again. This is I am Steve, and this is Sharon.
Hello, everyone. I'm on audio again today.
Yeah, Sharon likes the audio, and that's cool. So, wow, there's we're, we're going to be getting into a topic today that is just all encompassing. There's so much involved in it, but it's probably maybe what I've seen is the greatest stresses or one of the greatest stressors and mechanisms that people remain out of peace in. And you only have to go on social media sites to see that. I find Facebook more than anything for some reason. I don't know why, but it sure does seem to have people in a lot of Gehenna, as I like to say. And if you don't know what that means, you can look at our other videos. Um, One thing I'd like to say before we go on is if you've been watching these, remember to subscribe and hit the bell and all of those things as well. Also know that Sharon and I have come to this understanding of oneness, and I'm starting to talk a lot of people that came to this understanding of oneness that we have through very different ways and very different paths, I should say. And the people that are coming to understand it, most of the people that I know that have come to understand this came to this on their own, saw what we were doing and going, wow, somebody else knows. So this is an expanding force that's going on out there, it seems. And people are just starting to come and grow in it. Sharon and I both were in forms of religion before this, studied greatly, and took a huge interest into how this thing works, and had a very for me, anyways, it was a passion that I don't know that I didn't realize how it got there until I understood the oneness. But today, where we're going to go is something that we're going to combine the two things you're never supposed to talk about in public: religion
And religion.
and politics. Not really religion, because we don't really view this as religion, although atheists would, because any talk of God would be religion. But politics, how politics out there, and advertising, which to me are wrapped up into the same thing, politics and advertising. What I have come to understand, especially now growing in this oneness concept, is, to me, nobody understands the concept of oneness, at least an aspect of it, better than politics and advertising. What politicians and advertisers know better than most people that are not into politics, that are not part of politics and advertising, is that they believe you are a pawn and are made to be manipulated in a lot of ways. They believe that, and that they can and will manipulate them for their purposes, and that there's nothing wrong with that. So, wow, after saying that, Sharon, how does this? I'll just let you go. Where does this send you? I guess is a good way of putting it.
Well, I always try to keep my mind fixed on how all things in life relate to the idea that we're all one. Okay. So the first thing that came to my mind when you use the word they, or when I use the word they all the time, they, you, I have to always remember that I'm talking about images of myself.
Right.
Because in the honest understanding, they is me. So I'm actually pointing the finger towards myself when I say they, or even when I say you. Okay. So that's the first thing. So yes, they or me, right? We play this sometimes when we get to a level in the game that we understand that we are actually controlling the outcome of the game to a certain extent, we use that understanding for our benefit. Okay? So, for example, if you know that if you're playing a game of cards. Maybe I'm not a big card player, but you're playing a strategic game, right? With someone who doesn't have the knowledge of about how to win the game like you do, you're going to use that against them. And as Steve just says, advertising, public relations people, and politicians, a lot of them, realize that they have something about them that they can use to manipulate the game. Okay, for politicians, it's words. They use words like spells because words are actually just spellings, and they cast spells on you with words, and that's how they manipulate you. And so you're a pawn to them. Now, are they seeing it exactly the way I am describing it to you? I don't think so. I don't think a lot of the times they're not doing it deliberately and saying, okay, I'm going to pawn these people now. They're doing it because they're thinking they're doing something good. But they're actually using their spells or their words to manipulate your consciousness to affect the outcome that they want. So the question for you is, do you want to be a pawn? How does that make you feel? You know, for me personally, no. I may not know how to play the game to that extent where I can be a mastermind and control your mind. But as long as I know that I'm being pawned, believe me, I'm going to be on the lookout for right as best I can. So that's well, at least if I were to give advice to people, be on the lookout for when you're being pawned, and not just by politicians and advertising agencies and public relations firms, but even in your own families and the people around you. Because some people realize that they have a certain thing about them that they can use to manipulate you. And if you allow it, they will use it. So that's all I have to say on that, Steve.
And here's a really good way to understand when that's happening. I find now that I'm able to see this from a oneness perspective, believe me, when I used to be one of these political people that were like anti-Trump or whatever, you know what I mean? All of these things like that. But a great way to understand, and I love the way you said that a lot of politicians really don't realize that that's what they're doing, in a sense. I think there's always a sense that they do realize it. But the ones that have had the most influence, I believe, did know it very, very, very well. That they knew it exactly what they were doing, and they knew that. But even at that, some of those people might have been doing. A really good example is Trump. He's said a lot of things that people in the political field knew was simply to get votes and was never going to happen. But it's possible that in his mind, he did this because he believed he was doing the greater good. You know what I mean? It's possible. I'm not going to judge. I don't judge anyways. I've been there. Now, from the oneness perspective, I can look at people like Donald Trump, and I can kind of realize in my memory as much as I can right now that I have been that, I am that, and all of those things like that. So that makes it much more palatable to go through life in peace in knowing that. But if you want to know maybe something to avoid having your mindset towards, if somebody is trying to create separation, that person cannot do anything but manipulate, because separation is not truth. There is no separation. Any talk of separation in any way, trying to have one side be something and another person be something, and you're not them and you are not them, is a power move of manipulation. They are treating you as a pawn to create a platform for them to get to where they want to go. Simple as that. And you may say, okay, well, maybe it's for good. You choose one and say, this is going to make the world better. Anytime that we are doing things with this illusion of separation, it's not bad or good. It's just creating Gehenna. It will create negative
Experience.
experiences for you and the world. So when we see it from the oneness perspective, we can see this happening and not be part of it.
Right. And just a reminder that negative experiences are good because they're what's going to bring you to the positive experience. You need that contrast. So there's nothing wrong with what's going on. It's hard for me, and I guess for Steve, when we're delivering this message to talk about negative things versus positive things, when all the time we know that all is well. All is as it should.
And that's the other thing. All is as it should be. And this brings up a great topic. I don't know if we can go there. It's the greatest question. Oh, I guess we already did when we were before this. The greatest question towards religion, or if there's a God, of course, is why is there so much evil in the world? Right? And it's a paradox. Nobody in individual consciousness, we are brought to negative experiences by these negative experiences. By no means am I saying don't care because there's child pornography and all of those sort of things like that. It does bring on negative experiences, no doubt about it. But all these experiences come from those who don't understand that they are one with each individual, that they are literally one with each other. If they understood those things, they wouldn't do those things. So instead of looking at why this is there, again, why did this happen? Well, we were built on relationships, and the mind wanted relationships and can do nothing but have relationships. That's what the mind is. It's the mechanism of the mind. And in that, there is a contrast. And now the mind, it's like a game, is playing this game to bring us all back to peace again. And these experiences are happening outside of peace because of our lack of memory of that truth. If we knew that truth, we would be back in peace again. A very difficult thing is, again, a lot of these experiences are heartbreaking. They're very heartbreaking experiences. What would you say about that, Sharon? About that kind of experience?
Yes, it is to watch, especially when it comes to children, to watch that happening, and not feel inclined to do something to stop it. But here's the thing. If you feel inclined to do something to stop it, go right ahead. Don't quench that desire, because the world needs everybody to act on their impulse. Okay? Because the only one truly acting is God, the one. There's only one actor in the game, and he is, or she, or it, whatever you want to think about the one actor, the one being. That being is acting using the bodies that you think is a separate body from it, using that as a pawn. But the difference is, as Steve says, is using that body in a benevolent way to bring about the end game, which is peace and joy for everybody. End game. Okay, that's the end game of the one who is playing the game, which is who we are. We've just forgotten that.
Before you go on, we're getting interference. Okay, there, it's gone. Just
finished. Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know what
That's
it was.
From my end?
Yeah, okay. I think it was from your end. It appeared to be, but it's okay.
I hope not. I
understand what you're saying, and this is the most difficult thing, because it's very difficult to remember that we have been that child. And it's very difficult, even more difficult to remember that we have been the abuser. And that's probably the hardest thing.
Yeah.
It creates a lack of peace in us. And this is what creates a separation. When we judge the good or evil as something other than ourselves, we create this separation that actually creates more of the very thing we want to solve.
Yeah.
That's when it comes down to. When
Mm.
the more, again, I mean, and this is a reason why, and I still haven't found it. And I'm actually finding myself reading more about other religions than ever before now, because I'm trying to find it in some other religious mechanism. But I cannot find anything else in any other religious mechanism myself, and I'm really hoping that somebody in the comment section can clarify this in a different perspective. But I have never seen anything more that illustrates this more than the cross. I can't see any. All Jesus was speaking to the very people that were torturing or doing all of these horrible things, and saying, "Forgive them, Lord, they don't know what they do." We get to the point that even the worst case scenarios, when things are happening to children, when things are happening to abusers are out there, and all of these what we call horrible things are happening, this Christ character of the mind says, "Forgive them, Lord, they don't know what they do." And this is where religion was created, I believe. It's my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That they don't. That it is to me, it's the greatest statement in Scripture of what when Jesus said, "Forgive them, Lord, they know not what they do" in that situation. That is us saying the same thing to every atrocity you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. So even the atrocity of the person who is abusing a child, if we were Jesus, we could say that. But
If we're in our
we're not in our.
yeah, in the Christ
Yeah.
consciousness, we say, "Forgive them, Lord, they know not what they do."
Yes.
We have created a legal system that has allowed for this.
Mm-hmm.
In fact,
So.
the law, I want to go a little further in that. The
Mm-hmm.
original law of the Old Testament, where it says, if they do this, they're stoned, and if they do that, blah, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
What happened as the Old Testament continued after that law is that there started to be panels that were created. You see this in Moses. You see this, that are panels that are created that were like the law, like going to a lawyer, creating this ability to stand up for yourself. And what happened was that these people, it happened very little, wasn't very often that people are actually stoned for the very offenses the law said to do. Because these were the "Forgive them, Lord, they know not what they do's" already breaking out from the law. And this is what Jesus said when he said, "I didn't come to abolish the law." The law was good in the sense that it created the ability for us to say, "Forgive them, Lord, they know not what they do."
Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right. And you mentioned Jesus, and it's good to remind, I guess, at this point, that we're all Jesus. We're the ones that said,
Yeah.
"Forgive them, Lord, they know not what they do," 2,000 years ago. We
Yeah.
just forgot. It's the same being that is working in all of us.
That's right.
And through all of us,
Yeah.
whether we remember that or not. So.
And it's the difference between resisting that memory and accepting that memory that creates the Gehenna and not the and between being in Gehenna or being in peace.
Correct. So, I don't know that there's anything more that we can say. Maybe the last thing I can say is, look, you can choose to be a pawn. But the idea is do it consciously. Know that you're being pawned, but then choose who you want to pawn you. So you can say, for example, as Christians do, Lord Jesus, I want to be your pawn. Use me. Don't we do
That's
that
right.
in Christianity?
That's a
You're,
very
you're,
good point.
you're consciously offering yourself as a pawn for Jesus.
And that's what you're
So,
doing in politics as well.
yeah, and that's the difference with knowing that you're being pawned and not knowing that you're being pawned. When you know you're being pawned, give yourself to someone who you want to pawn you. So turn yourself over to the memory of Jesus.
That's right.
Okay.
Forgive them, Lord, they know not what. Be the pawn to forgive them, Lord, they know not what they do.
Exactly.
And then we can now, from that perspective, let's remember what happened, okay? After Jesus died on the cross, everything settled out. There was no war between the Romans and the Jews because he became the scapegoat for their differences. For a time, they were like one mind because they were putting their separation anxieties on the one fellow that was saying that you don't need to live in those separation anxieties. You are one. And they actually became like almost like a oneness, not in true belief of it, but there became almost like a not a fake peace, I guess, for a short amount of time because of what happened there. Because they were able to put their offenses on something. And that's what's happening in the world today. And I don't need to bring it up. You can see it. I don't need to bring up every instance that this is happening, but there's some that are very apparent to us, obviously. People are putting their offenses towards some other thing in belief of separation. And that's what we do if we believe separation. The only way we're going to find our peace is if we can find something to blame and pour our offenses on that thing, which never brings peace. It never brings peace. The only thing that will bring peace is forgive them, Lord, they know not what they do. If we act out of that, our actions are going to be a little different.
Yes,
a lot different.
yes,
It's going to be a lot different. How we treat each other, how we act towards each other, how we realize that all of this can grow in peace is going to look way different. And I've said it before. If now knowing oneness, if I'm in this offense as people that may be involved in the Black Lives Matter movement, like that's really what it is. Again, the Black Lives Matter movement is not a representation of all Black people. It's a movement that people have chosen to take an offense and have gone forward with. If, in fact, we went a direction of the oneness concept and said, forgive them, Lord, they know not what they do, we now become the sacrifice for that. So they became the sacrifice in their offense in doing what they did, and we remove that and become the sacrifice ourselves. In which case, we would do things like go down to where the police officer is and say, hey, I love you, man, and give you a big hug. And I feel your pain, that whatever pain caused you to perform this act on another consciousness that is you. I feel that pain. I've had that pain. I know that pain. And if we were to identify with ourselves like that, how do you think that person's going to react? Ask yourself that. How are you going to react to yourself when we treat ourselves that way? How are anybody in your life right now going to react when you're acting like that? And we brought this up again before in other videos as well. This does not apply if you are in physical abuse and are concerned for receiving physical abuse. That is up to you in a lot of ways, but for the most part, remove yourself from that. But from some distance, maybe you're able to express to the person that caused the abuse, I understand that you are not in memory of our oneness, or you may not want to say it like that, but I understand where you are. I will not be able to be with you in this lifetime, maybe, because you were in that with me, and I'm intending that there's an awareness that comes to you that you no longer have to be in that offense.
Right. And I would take that as a step further to say, not just abuse, if you're in any situation, any circumstance that's bringing you negativity, anything outside of a feeling of joy, peace, happiness, anything outside of peace, remove yourself from that. This whole game is so that we can experience a peaceful, joyous life. Okay? And any circumstance or any person that's causing you not to have that experience of peace and joy, just separate yourself from it. All you're doing is sending a memory back to,
Yeah.
to its place.
Yeah.
That's all you're doing, right?
Physical separation is not separation.
Correct.
That's the understanding the oneness of physical separation from a situation is not actual separation.
Correct.
And usually in itself is a, first of all, taking care of your own individual consciousness at this time is taking care of the consciousness of all,
Thank
because we
you.
are all
Well
because
said.
we are all
Yes.
one. So the
Yes.
more we live in our own peace, the more we send energy of peace to other consciousness that are of our mind, which breaks the chain of this, which helps break the chain of these negative experiences that are happening in the world, that are all part of being the contrast that allows us to be in the peace. So they are good. Wow, what a paradox. And here we are again at the end of our talk. And I mention again, please subscribe, bell, comment all day. We're really looking forward to comments here. And we love doing this, and I hope you love it as well. Giving us expressions of love for what we do. We're cool with that. Okay, Sharon, thanks again. It's been awesome having you, like usual. And I can't wait till our next episode. I don't know where we're going after this, but I really did enjoy this one. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, bye-bye.
Lots of love to you.